Welcome one and all to the 17th edition of this long-going, boring, but yet informative section, the Swali edition. Today, the 7th of November 2020. It's an interesting time to be alive. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. The US general elections were carried out a few days ago. Those were the election day, and on Tuesday, the 2nd. Today is 7th. It's a Saturday. The vote counting is still ongoing. We are here today addressing an interesting yet very relevant question. Is democracy dead? Yeah, I'm interested in this question because before the beginning of during the campaign period of the 2020 US elections, there were a lot of night show hosts and comedians and many other people who proclaimed vehemently that 2020 would be the death of democracy. And it begs a lot of questions. And we will be comparing the same situation across the board. We have the Kenyan situation where we have experienced what the US is experiencing, like all our elections. And then the US, which has always come in to tell us, be patient with the vote counts, be calm, and it's experiencing an interesting turn of activities. So we are watching and we are asking ourselves what's going on. Does 2020 mean democracy is dead? We don't know. We don't know. I don't know. Mostly you, the viewers, do not know. We cannot tell. Joe Biden is currently leading by a large margin in most states, and in the four states that have not been called yet, that is Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, where he's leading, and Donald Trump is leading in two states that have not been called, Alaska and Maine. What we are trying to analyze today is not who will win the US 2020 elections. We are not trying to analyze how they will win. We are not even going to go into the question of how the college vote works. Most of you already have the facts. We know how the college vote works. But what we will try to interpret today will be the tweet marathon by Donald Trump that has been ongoing since Tuesday. Before the elections, he already had stated a position that he would not concede if he did not win. And it seems that he might not win, and he says that he claims fraud, that the elections have been stolen from him by some very sad people. That is what he said on November 3rd, and he has proclaimed the same continuously. He says that he won on election night, which is okay. On election night, Donald Trump was leading by huge margins. In Pennsylvania, he was leading by over 600,000 votes. He was leading in Georgia. He was leading in Arizona. He was also leading in Wisconsin, and other states, which finally were called for Biden. It is strange that after leading in those states, he has ended up on the back foot at the moment. He's currently on the back foot in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia, which are states that will definitely give Biden presidency. What worries us is not him leading or not leading. What worries us is the fact that he has taken a position that intends to undermine what the electorate in the United States have been used to. The United States electorate have been used to a situation where a president must concede defeat. Or if the candidate is not satisfied with the results or with the voting process, the vote counting process, they must take necessary steps to ensure that they can go to court, they can they can petition for recounts and so on. There are very clear methods, but he has a big problem with the mail-in ballots, which came in early but could not be counted because there are regulations that ensure you do not count ballots before the election day, and even if you can count them, it must be after elections have been. So there is a process of processing, the process that is required to verify the votes before they are counted. So it has brought in a big issue. It relates to our situation back home. Tumezoea kwa miaka mingi, for the past 4 elections we have had contested presidential elections, not for 5. We had 2 elections in 2017. In 2007 there were contested elections. In 2013 there were contested elections. In 2017 there were contested elections. We have been used to contested elections in 1992, 1997, back and forth. Claims of voter fraud, voter bribery, and and election theft have been rife within our election system. Sisi tumezoea mambo na kusema kwamba kura zimeibiwa. Lakini je, kwa mara ya kwanza tunaona taifa ambalo tunajua ni taifa ambalo limeendelea kiuchumi, taifa ambalo limejiwezesha kidemokrasia, taifa ambalo limekuwa na demokrasia kwa miaka 200, kwa miaka 224, for 2024 years. Nation that has had democracy for 2024 years is having a problem with its own elections because of an incumbent that does not want to concede defeat. The reason being, he believes that the elections have been stolen and the election process was fraudulent. This is not strength. It's difficult to lose for everyone out there. It's very painful to lose, and we have to look at why is it very painful to lose elections, and why does it imply that democracy is not just there anymore. Elections, unfortunately, are about money and not votes. I'll explain a small characteristics of the 2020 US elections that most of us have not been shown. The US elections spent the Biden electoral campaign spent more than 1 trillion Kenyan shillings in campaigns. This 1 trillion went to volunteers. This 1 trillion went to media adverts. The 1 trillion went to ensuring that the campaign had a brilliant presence within the communities. And when it comes to matters of volunteers, which hundreds of thousands were engaged, these volunteers operate on a basis that they cannot use personal resources to carry out the campaign programs. They are facilitated with resources, but these resources cannot mean a monetary advantage. So if you receive 2,000 for your transportation, for everything, that is that. So elections in the 20th century are more about money than their votes. There was a competition of how much money was earned by the campaign. There was a competition of how much money was spent by the campaign rather than how much votes would be gained. And votes can only be acquired if you have the resources. So in the 2020 US general elections, we have seen a situation whereby the ideas don't matter anymore. The change, the notion that voting is about policy, the notion that voting is about bringing in leaders who represent us, mattered a little bit lesser. And this was catapulted higher by the involvement of social media and the broad media. In the US elections, there were clear divides of media that supports the Democrats and the media that supports Donald Trump. In this year round, it was about Donald Trump, the Republican Party, not about the Republican Party, which is a sad situation. We are seeing a democracy which has matured per se, having a problem handling what we call populist politics. It's not what we would expect as a young generation, and we are just growing up. We're just getting the radar. The biggest questions of contention in these elections were, of course, coronavirus and the policies, international policies. Excuse the Trump's international policies, among others. There was the issue with Russia, China, the trade war with China, massaging Russia, and the continued back and forth with Iran. I would not want to talk about the US in my podcast today and in future. I want to talk about problems from home, problems that we can deal with. So I'll go to our problems within our pristine democracy ilikufa ama we can save it. Is democracy dead in Kenya? Kuna chance kwamba democracy ilikufa. In 1992, Kenya, the article 2B about multi-party democracy was ratified. Very many political parties came on board, and the current left-wing political party we know of is the Orange Democratic Movement that was formed by a leader who initially had the Democratic Party DP back then. Now, all parties that are founded on the idea of democracy are supposed to address emerging challenges. What are the emerging challenges? Emerging challenges include environmental conservation. Emerging challenges include addressing issues of, by the way, poverty, rising levels of poverty. So we are looking at the idea of socialism or whatever, or communism, having people at the top caring about people at the bottom. So that is what the Democrats in the US care about. In Kenya, we expect that the Orange Democratic Movement cares more about the people in Kibra, the people in the ghettos in Kisumu, the people in the ghettos in Mombasa, the people in the ghettos in any other town in Kenya. It should worry about the people at the lowest cadre. But we are seeing a very strange situation about the politics within the parties we call Democrats or the left-wing parties. There is ODM, there is ANC is a left-wing political party. It's not conservative. Jubilee is. We have several. I think we only have two conservative parties, Jubilee and KANU. The others are progressive. Yeah. So the progressives, let me not call them left-wing. The progressive parties are not addressing the problems you want them to address. Progressive parties should now be talking about, if we had referendums, we should be talking about having referendums every election year. Every election year, and citizens should choose what to vote for or against. In the US, like in the state of in one state, they were voting about Uber. So they were voting about Uber drivers being employees of the Uber company or being private contractors. In another state, they voted about marijuana being legal or illegal. In another state, they voted about another different thing. So it should be something we are used to. When we talk about having a referendum every election year, but it's on a different question. Like right now, the referenda on increasing the public the allocation for counties should be pushed, yes, but it should be on the ballot in 2022, and it should be asking every citizen to give the suggestion, and it should be clear. Don't give me an option of just 35% plus. Tell me, do you want 35? Do you want 50? Do you want? It's an option that you can have on the table. But in our country, democracy might be dead. Democracy might be in the powers of those who want the money and who have the money. In 2017, for instance, when we had the presidential runoff, the second round of elections, we didn't have someone turn up against the incumbent, which is totally wrong, which is strange per se. We should not have an election where one of the candidates who goes to court refuses to run in the second round of election. If you really trust the system, you should trust them to the end. If you trust the courts, trust the people heading the electoral body, trust them. If you do not trust them, you still have a leeway for further litigation in courts. Don't go around spiking emotions unnecessarily among the electorate just for your personal gain. And in this particular case, in 2017, there was a personal gain. The pay bill number was brought out, it raised millions of shillings. Nobody knows where these millions of shillings went to. So it is a strange situation. And today, for the first time, I'll have an attack on some of our biggest political leaders. And I'll mention a name. Raila Odinga might be one of the people who have helped strongly kill democracy again. He might be on the forefront because he has helped us, yes, achieve something within the political circles, but he has not helped us transition to the next step of political growth. We have to grow. We have to have options. Democracy is about having options, having someone turn up for election this year. If they are not able to win it, they should let someone else vie. And if you cannot win every time, you cannot just want to run every time. It's wrong. Now, I'm taking a very personal I'm taking a personal stand on this because it might turn out to be not the right conversation to have. But on one edition, we have to be quite honest. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with the topics we bring out to the population. And if democracy is dead, then should we now just despair and let the system run? I'm glad I've seen young people make inroads into the democratic circles. I've seen young people want to put out their ideas clearly and cleanly for someone to view them and say this is an option. If we do not want democracy to die, then it's now our time as young people to develop a strategy for progressive conversation. So time to now say, look here, you guys have done this and you've done your best. Now let's try this. Within your communities, within your homes, within everywhere, just start a conversation on democracy, on reviving democracy as a real and honest uh, approach. We have to give this another shot. We cannot let it just go because the powers that be want it to go. We cannot just say democracy is dead and let it die. It can be dead in some minds, but deep in our hearts, we have to give it some hope. We have to let it survive a few more years so that we can hand it over to another future generation. And I believe this can be done. This is something we are trying in our different entities, in our different organizations. We can, for one given moment, allow democracy a breathing space, allow it to express itself. And in 2022, I'm seeing a lot of that among my friends. I'm glad that a number of you out there are turning up for election, which is amazing. I'm hoping that you campaign. Don't use that as an opportunity to make some more resources and then just walk away. Campaign, get 5, 10, 100, 1,000 votes for democracy's sake. And let's start the transition process because the conversation has been about individuals for too long. Let's start the process. We can start it if we want to. I know we will. Thank you very much. It's been your host Kevin Makova, and this has been Swali Edition. See you on Wednesday.